This is your math gal, Julie Harland. Please visit my website at yourmathgal.com, where all of my videos are organized by topic. Alright, in a previous video I went over solutions, roots, and zeros, what that really means. And remember, solution of an equation is the same thing as the root of an equation, and the zero of a polynomial, we're really talking about a function, and we're trying to find the place where the function is set equal to 0, which is the x-intercepts. So let's look at an example here. All right, find the roots of x cubed minus 6x squared plus 9x equals 0. So this is an equation with one variable, and the highest degree, the highest exponent, is 3. So we know just keep in mind, there can't be more than 3 solutions. Okay, so keep in mind, no more than 3 roots. Remember, a root is just a solution. So we talked about that in our previous video. So we know we're not going to get 4 solutions or 5 solutions. We might get no solutions, 1 solution, 2 solutions, or 3 solutions. So we take this equation, and normally what we do is if we have something more than just x to the first power, we set it equal to 0, and of course it is set equal to 0. And then we try factoring. So the first step in factoring is to take out the greatest common factor, which is x, and that gives us x squared minus 6x plus 9. And then we have to see if we could factor any further. And x squared minus 6x plus 9, that's a perfect square. So we could write that as x minus 3 squared. Or if you didn't notice that, maybe you just wrote that as x times x minus 3 times x minus 3 equals 0. So continuing to solve it, though, we're going to set each factor equal to 0. And I don't have to set this one equal to 0. It's already taken care of here. So I get 2 solutions. So we have 2 roots. So my solutions are 0. Whoops. It's a funny looking 3. 0 and 3. That's my solution set. Those are the roots. So if it says find the roots, my answer are 0 and 3. Okay? So basically we're just looking for the solutions when we're just talking about an equation. Now, what if instead of saying find the roots, I had written this as a function? So what if I said find the zeros, whoops, I didn't mean to put that here. Find the zeros of f of x equals x cubed minus 6x squared plus 9x. Now this is a function, it's a polynomial function because this is a polynomial. So we could graph it by plotting a whole bunch of ordered pairs. But when you're asked to find the zeros, basically what it's asking you is to find where it crosses the x-axis. So to find the zeros of a function, that means let f of x equal to 0. Now remember, you might see this function written as y instead of f of x. And of course, that's the same thing as saying y equals 0. So in any case, what we're doing is letting f of x or y equal 0. So I would be solving the equation x cubed minus 6x squared plus 9x equals 0. But that's exactly what we just did, right? Back here, when we found the roots of x cubed minus 6x squared plus 9x equals 0. So you see the relationship? All right, so when I say find the zeros, I am going to set it equal to 0 and I'm going to solve. Now, since I solved just a minute ago, what did we get for the roots? Let's look back here. We got 0 and 3. So let's say we went and did all that work again and we found out x equals 0 or x equals 3. We just found the zeros. The zeros are 0 and 3. Graphically, these are our x-intercepts. they're at 0 and 3. In other words, if you were going to write those as ordered pairs, we have 0, 0 as one ordered pair and 3, 0, right? Those are the x-intercepts. Now, this isn't yet telling you how to graph it, but it does tell you where the x-intercepts are. So that's a start, right? We have 3, 0 here, because let's say that's 4, 2, 3, 4, let's say. And we also know that we have an ordered pair here. Now, the tricky part is getting the rest of the graph, right? And we'll be learning that at some later point. But for now, if it asks you what the zeros of this function are, we have 0 and 3. Those are the zeros of the function. And did you also notice we didn't get more than 3 solutions, roots, or zeros, right? We only got 2 in this particular case because when you factored out, one of the factors was the same. Let's try another problem. Find the zeros of f of x equals x cubed plus 5x squared minus 4x minus 20. So I'm not asking you about the roots. I'm now just talking about a function. You're asked to find the zeros. What does that mean? You set it equal to 0, and that will tell you where your x-intercepts are. Even though it's not asking, it might say, what are the x-intercepts of this function? You would basically pretty much get the same answer, except you would write the 2 ordered pairs. So what do? We take and set the function equal to 0. Remember? Instead of writing f of x, we're going to say equals 0. Now, the question is, can we factor this? If we can, we'll be able to find these. If not, we don't have anything like the quadratic formula to use, and so we'll have to use some other methods, and we'll be doing that later. But for now, let's try factoring. This has 4 terms. I'm going to see if factoring by grouping works. So if I group the first 2, and if I group the second 2 terms, see, out of the first 2 terms, I could pull out an x squared times x plus 5. Out of the second, I'm going to pull out a negative 4. The trick here is you should always get the same thing in here if it does factor in parentheses. So that's why I pulled out a negative 4. And that did work. I got an x plus 5. So this was nice. This one factors is x plus 5 times x squared minus 4. But now I have to look and see if I could factor further. And x squared minus 4 can be factored. So I have x plus 2 times x minus 2. It's a difference of 2 squares. And then not showing all the rest of the problem, remember we would set each factor equal to 0. So what would the zeros be once I set each of these equal to 0 and solved? Putting in negative 5 for x, right? We'll give this one a 0. Putting in negative 2 for the second factor will make this factor 0 and a positive 2. So we have 3 zeros. I know since the highest exponent is 3, I can't have more than 3 zeros, right? Because when you set it equal to 0, remember, you can't have more roots or solutions than the highest exponent on the variable. So we've just found out that the zeros of this function are negative 5, negative 2, and positive 2. Now, what does that mean graphically? That means if I were going to graph the function f of x equals x cubed plus 5x squared minus 4x minus 20, the x-intercepts are negative 5, 0, negative 2, 0, and 2, 0. There's a lot more to graphing than just knowing the x-intercepts, but that is a start. By the way, what would the y-intercept be? what do you do to get the y-intercept? You put in 0 for x. So take this function, f of x equals x cubed plus 5x squared minus 4x minus 20. Plug in 0 for x, and what would y be? It would be negative 20. So on this function, I already know 4 ordered pairs. Now you'd have to find ordered pairs in between all of those, right? So you'd have to put in some other numbers for x to get a nice smooth function, and you'll be learning how to do that later. But for now, we're focusing in on what the zeros are, which is right here. Whoops, let me get this extra thick. Somehow I am not. Sorry. Okay. I'm having technical difficulties. Remember how to do this? Okay, here we go. There's our answer. We found our zeros at negative 5, negative 2, and 2. This is your math gal, Julie Harland. Please visit my website at yourmathgal.com, where all of my videos are organized by topic.